welcome back to the Day in the Life of podcast. It's Eve
and Payden,
and we're so excited today. We're, hitting week 4. I think this is our final conclusion to our first round of
21 days.
21 days. So if you should be close, if not there yet. But yeah, we were going to kind of talk about how we're doing and what things that we might add on to our list next time and things that we might take away instead of adding on.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we might take away that are distracting us from fulfilling what we need to fulfill.
Yeah. So I think we've done pretty well and we've seen a little bit of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk more today about how we're really in this for the longevity of it because life's in seasons. And so there's going to be things that you start working on now that you're not really going to see the outcome.
Yeah,
maybe even years, or it's something that seems so minuscule that you won't even notice it, but it's actually working in you where other people might be able to see the difference. But yeah, we're also talking about taking away habits that we already have, because this week or this past month, we've been focused on adding things. But like we said, we need rest and we need time and we need to take away, we need to replace.
Yeah.
So we need to replace the bad habits with the good habits. So what bad habits can we take away?
Yeah. I think that's really good. We've kind of been focused on restoring and getting ready for the fall. And so it's really important that we not only look at what we've already accomplished, what do we need to improve on? Because we can always improve, but we do need to always remember what we have accomplished first. So even though we are coming to a close to our first 21 days, we are starting another 21 days. And I think it's really important that we celebrate our accomplishments and rejoice in what the Lord has done for us and what we have seen in the past few months as well.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about how we're such a busy society and that we're so noisy and we're always in a rush. And so it's really a good thing to look back on what you've accomplished and, give it back to God and be like, this is because of you and bring you guys closer. But it's also just nice to look back and see that you did it, even if you don't necessarily see any gains.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I still had the discipline because I have this Bible verse and it says, it's 2 Timothy 1:7. It says, you are strong, for the Spirit of God gave us. Sorry, that they just added "you're strong" into the picture. For the Spirit of God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So even if you haven't, say it was like saving money was one of your goals or something like that, even if you don't have an extra amount of money that you wanted to get, or it's not something so significant that it's life-changing right now, still the fact that you know that you were self-disciplined enough, I think is going to give you some reassurance and it's going to lift your spirits and it's going to make you feel like, well, I can accomplish this because I accomplished that.
Yeah. It's so important to keep a positive mindset and a positive attitude. You were kind of talking about this earlier, you're going to go with, if you look at something bad, you're going to see it bad. And if you look at something good, you're going to see it good. On my workout this morning, they literally said that, don't think, oh man, this is really hard. I don't want to do this next rep or whatever. They say to think at it like, okay, I just accomplished that. What else can I accomplish and what can I add to that to keep going? Because I just did that.
I think too, it makes such a difference in my days. If my day starts off with me oversleeping and my alarm's not going off, I'm already in such a bad mood that the rest of my day is going to go bad.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at everything to go wrong. I'm like, oh, of course I would get stopped at this red light.
Yeah.
Or of course a cop would be sitting there. Of course this, of course this. If you're looking for the bad, you're only going to see the bad.
Right.
So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. Because, with these past 21 days, we for sure messed up. We for sure, slacked sometimes. But I think it's really important also to reflect on what we have done. And it's just so important to keep that positive mindset because you can always give it back to God because in the end, that's what we're trying to do. We're giving all the glory back to God and we're trying to, be His servants and fulfill His word. And so just, just always have to keep that in mind when we, are adding new goals and taking a step away, because I think what we've seen, when we haven't met our goals every single day, it's either been because of a distraction or, laziness. Yeah, an excuse. So I think this next 21 days as well, it's going to be very important to take things away.
I think also, as far as like looking back on time and looking at your accomplishments, it's also good to look at like what you are reaping. So if you are sitting there and you're not, like, if you're more irritable towards people, or if you just feel like you have no time in the day, and if you feel more stressed, like, the goal of this was not to feel more stressed.
Yeah.
The goal was to feel more at peace. So if you're feeling more stressed out, you need to reevaluate what you're sowing. Like, what are you planting and what are you going to reap? And so if what you were planting this time was like, I must run 2 miles a day, I must spend an hour with the Lord, if it's like so unreasonable that you are not having a good outcome because your day feels even more fulfilled, because we only have 24 hours in the day, and you have to sleep and you have to work. And so it's hard to fit everything in. I think that's kind of more where this round we're trying to figure out what we can take out of our lives that's not good. Yeah, that can be replaced with the good stuff. And even if you need to take down like certain stuff, you might feel like, oh, well, I can't take away that. So maybe just make a list of your priorities.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really good point. Always reevaluate. That's how you get better. You may think, an hour of time with the Lord, that may be your goal. And that's a great goal. It should be a great goal, but maybe you start with 20 minutes. Like,
just because doing it at all, an hour is a lot to commit.
Yeah, absolutely. An hour is a lot to commit. And I think that if you're failing at something, it's always good to readjust and, look at what you have in front of you and think, okay, well, I can take this in smaller chunks than I started out with, because sometimes we take off a lot more than we can chew. And I think I really loved this quote from my past sermon 2 weeks ago. And it was, a movement starts small and grows big, but a promotion starts big and then it fades away. So don't always look at it as, oh, well, this is really small, I should be doing something way bigger. No, that's not necessarily it. Like, you can start in small dosages and grow on top of that. You can't just start something overnight. Like, I love how they say a promotion starts big, but then it fades away. Like, it's all in the front and then it slowly fades. Yeah. And that's great. You may have, the first week you may have hit it hard. You did it great. But then by the second week, you're probably like, well, oh man, that was a lot. I'm tired.
Or, oh, well, I did it last week, so I don't know how I can miss a day.
Yeah. Yeah. We start making excuses and we all fall short because we're human. But, once again, if you give it to the Lord and pray about it, you can take things in smaller doses. It's always really, really important, because when you start small and get bigger, it's going to be like, hey, I did this, instead of like a letdown of, I didn't fulfill my hour, like I'm a failure.
Right.
You at least, like, if you start small and grow, well, hey, let me start at 20 minutes. And if I want to add more in that, that's great. If I don't, great too. You gotta just start, where you need to start.
And I think, again, we wanted to reiterate the importance of why we're starting, because our generation, and I know we've talked, other people that we know, we've talked to people, and a lot of people have the same feeling of burnout, where you just feel like you're watching your life pass by, and like, no matter what you do, you can't catch up. It's like, you come up with these plans to try and catch up, but it's like, every time you're down, something hits you. And then you're trying to crawl back out of that. And so it's like something all the time. But then when you try to talk to other Christians about it, they'll just be like, pray. Yeah, just pray. Just talk to God. Just pray. But it's not going to be instant.
Right.
And you still have to work on yourself to do things. Or God's going to be telling you what to do, or he's going to place things on your heart. You can't just sit there. You still have to be moving, or just putting all of your trust in God. And so that's kind of been a lot of people's problem lately, is just because we are so busy. Like, we think that we have to do something every second of the day. And even if it's not fulfillful, like if we're just sitting there scrolling, you're still doing something, and that's taking away from your time with God.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really important because I know we've talked a lot about that this past week. Like sometimes we feel like we're going through the motions and we're filling ourselves with emptiness. But what if we take our emptiness and, give it to God? Like we really have to evaluate what we're doing with our time. Like you always say, like we have 24 hours in a day. What are we doing in those 24 hours? And we are super busy all the time. And it's hard. It's really hard because I know burnout is a huge thing. And we as humans get burnt out every day because we feel like we're going through the motions. I literally felt like that last week. But you're right. It doesn't just change overnight. Like that's why the whole reason why we're doing this is because we want to restore what we once felt, what we once had, and what we can't have, because we are destined for so much more than what we're just doing day to day. And I really hope you all believe that, because it's super true. Like God has a plan for each one of us. And for us to get to that plan, we have to really dive into Him and see what He has for us each day. And it's so important that we take rest in Him and confide in Him, because that's where we're going to get our strength from. And that's where we're going to get our energy from.
I think it goes back too to, if you're only thinking about the bad, you're only going to see the bad.
Yeah.
So when you're burnt out, you're just thinking about how terrible life is and how you can't catch up no matter what you do. So you're just going to keep seeing road bump after road bump after road bump. And it just causes so much anxiety into you. And so one thing that I've been trying to do lately is like, anytime I have a anxiety or stress or like a negative thought pop up into my brain, I've been like, can worrying add one moment to your life? Or I'll just start saying scripture in my head about worrying. And so maybe if we need to like post some this week, just so that people can know the good ones to like kind of memorize for your head. But here's another one that I have. It is therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or what your or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And that is just so good for so many reasons, because when I think about that, it's like, can it add any time to my life? No.
Yeah.
And what's going to matter at the end of my life? Jesus.
Yeah.
That's all that's going to matter. And it's not going to matter about these fake scenarios that popped up in my head that are never even going to happen. Or if they do happen, we talked last week about having like a prayer journal or something. Just look back and think about all the past seasons you've been in your life and how much God has taken care of you.
Yeah.
You really do not need to stress about anything, because if it does happen, what's worst case scenario? Like, honestly, your worst case scenario isn't normally that bad.
Yeah.
And then like, He's going to take care of you. It's going to happen for His plan. And there's going to be a reason for all of it. So that's one of the good points. And then the other point is, I feel like it shows when He compares us to the animals and the birds, like we think that our life, we think we're so like high tech, and our society has just prospered so much that we're worried about social media likes, and we're worried about all these random things, but the birds outside are just living.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as that for us, but our own human nature has just like gone so out of whack that we are worried about sin, or we're worried about all these other things that have caused destruction and distraction from our lives. It's taken us away from just eating, breathing, sleeping, loving God.
Yeah.
And so now we have to do all of these other things on a day-to-day basis when none of it matters. And they're just worldly things that have been made up.
Yeah. I really love that, because we look at our lives as a whole and we have a lot of stress and anxiety, and what is causing that stress and anxiety? Because I know for a fact it's not God. Because if you really evaluate what you do each day and think about wholeheartedly what you're worrying about, does it reflect God or lie sin? Or is it sin? And it's simple, because the things that you worry about, we always say give it to God, but really, really evaluate what is causing your worry. Because if it's your cell phone or likes on a picture, how many views you get on TikTok, that's
money.
not.
I think money is a huge
one, especially with, our age, especially we're starting become
Fresh.
young adults. We need money to live. We strive for all these expectations. I do this a lot. I do a lot of comparison. Like, you see it so easily now on social media that people have, the newest clothes, the newest designer shoes, purses, bags. And I am guilty because I have expensive taste. But in reality, do they benefit anything? Do I need them? No, absolutely not. And I'm stressing about money or something that I don't need, first off. And how is it going to benefit me for God? Like, yes, would it be nice to have, a lot of money? Yes, but is it going to be life or death?
Right. And the Lord says that it's harder for rich men to get into heaven because they make it an idol. Like, they're living their entire lives just trying to get that bag, make that bread, as people nowadays would try and prompt you to do. It's going to be harder for you because that becomes an idol and you don't know what to do without it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that causes a lot of our, stress. And if we really looked at what causes us stress, or if it's a boy or anything like that, that's a super good point, because in the end, God's going to take care of it. So why are you stressing about it? It'd be super good to fulfill your mind with a scripture or something every time you start to stress. I know back a few months ago, I had a song I would play every time I would start to worry. It's called Peace Be Still. And I would play that, and it would literally send, I could feel the Holy Spirit come over me. And now, every time I kind of think that I'm going to start stressing about something, I'm like, no, he's got this. He's took care of me every single time. And most of the times, the things I was worrying about was not anything that was going to either benefit me one or two, really going to be that bad,
Yeah. And I feel like we might be belittling stress a little bit just because we're saying, well, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Life's easy. Because things do, it could be something really bad, like a terminal illness, or it could be a really devastating thing that you're worrying about.
Yeah.
But still, at the end of the day, worrying cannot add a moment to your life or another person's life.
Yeah.
But prayer. So if you want to change your worry, the second you start to worry, the second you start to think about it, maybe change it to a prayer.
Yeah.
So instead of being like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and seeing the bad and putting the bad in your brain, be like, Lord, please don't let this happen. Please don't let this happen. Please don't let this happen. And do it in a way of bringing it to his feet.
Yeah.
Rather than stressing and knowing that it's going to happen.
Yeah. In school, we kind of talk about, because yes, there are some bad stressors. There's some really, really bad things that stress you out. And in school, we kind of talk about good stressors and bad stressors. I know, and that's kind of funny to say a good stress, but a good stressor it's kind of like a test. You have to study for that test, or you have homework due. That kind of motivates you to get it done. Bad stressors would be terminal illness, I don't know, death in the family. It's big things. And to combat those, like you said, you kind of just have to lay it at God's feet. He has a plan, and that just might be a part of his plan for you. We don't know the answers. We don't know why bad things happen, but we do know that God always has a bigger plan and bigger purpose in mind when he gives you that. That could be your task to help others. And we always get that question a lot, and it's so hard because we don't know the answer. And I don't think we will ever know the answer until we get to heaven.
Right.
And
by that point, we're not going to be worried about any of the bad things that happen.
No. And I mean, we talk about heaven all the time, but we just don't truly understand what it's going to be like up there. And so we won't have all the answers, and we don't know everything, but that is one good thing, that we will get to ask Jesus one day, why? And another thing too, you're going to see your purpose be fulfilled. And at the end of the day, it's always going to be God's plan. So I think that should give you some peace of mind, just to know that even if you are going something that's kind of rough right now, God's got it. He's in control, and he has a purpose for you.
Right. That's really good. So I think another thing that we were wanting to focus on is rest.
Yeah, we've mentioned that a little bit. Yeah, about rest is really important.
It's important. I realized today I didn't understand that it's one of God's commandments. So I was going to read for you.
I think, when we were talking about fulfilling goals, stress comes up and we have to reevaluate what causes us our stress, but also exhaustion.
Oh, yeah.
Exhaustion is a huge thing, and we use that as an excuse a lot, but exhaustion's real. It's not necessarily a physical exhaustion. It's an emotional exhaustion.
I wanted to add too, once you said that, it reminded me that stress, like the more you're under stress, the more likely there is for fear to creep in, and the fear is the enemy. And I feel like it's the same with exhaustion.
It
Like
most
if you're
definitely is.
exhausted, the enemy can come
Yeah.
pick at you because you're not on your game. You don't have the walls up because you don't have the energy to have the walls up.
Yeah.
You listen to all the things.
Yeah. And I think, with our busy world and our distraction-filled world, we are like shot at all the time with negativity, and that's physically and emotionally exhausting. And you can never have enough rest for emotionally exhaustedness, because that's borderline mental. And the only way we can combat mental is through Jesus. That's, if it's a mental block and it's mental exhaustion, the only way to combat it is through Jesus. You will never get enough sleep for it.
The other day about I think it was 8 weeks of prayer for 12 minutes can alter your brain. Like it can enough to show up on a scan. So imagine what stress can do.
Yeah.
We try to push mental illness under the rug, but like emotional and mental things can definitely impact a person.
Oh yeah. Repeated traumas, burnout, as we kind of just talked about earlier, that's a big, huge impact on your physical and mental health and your spiritual health as well. Because if none of those are working together, then you're not at your full potential.
But I think like right now, at least for my life, my first like coping mechanism, stress coming into my life is trying to overthink about all the ways I can fix it. So I like hyperfixate on how can I fix this? How can I fix this? How can I fix that? But sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
Like it is out of your hands and it is in the other person's court for what they're going to do. And there's just absolutely nothing you can do. So, but it's still like your coping mechanism. It's because it's your brain has been trained for your first reaction to be to stress about it or to fix the problem because that's what you've done repeatedly for so long. So that's why we're trying to go back to the basics where when you stress, pray. So that's your first instinct is to go to God before you get on your phone and text your best friend or before you get on your phone and text your husband, so that you're talking to God and giving it to him before you even have time to stress about it.
Yeah. That's really good. We can kind of go into, why we take rest in Jesus and why it's so fulfilling. And that's the only way we can really get true rest. Because I think you had a passage on that.
Yeah. So this is in Exodus 20, and this is the 10 Commandments. So this starts in 8, and it says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all of your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son nor your daughter, nor your male nor your female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy." Again, we've said this before, even the Lord rested.
Yeah.
Because he had looked at what he had, it said he looked at what he had done and it was perfect or like, and it was great. It was good. So once you like go full force with your week, it's okay to take that day to just relax. And I think that for me, Saturdays are my days that I love to reset. Like I love to reset the house and get all of my stuff cleaned. And then Sunday we could just wake up and the house was nice and we can just go about our day.
Yeah.
And so I would challenge everyone to do that. I want to be better about keeping it clean or keeping all my stuff up throughout the entire week so that you don't have to work as hard, because in my case, I procrastinate so bad. And so every Saturday I'll clean my entire house head to toe. And so I'm super anxious and I will start stressing on Sunday and Monday about how much I'm going to have to clean on Saturday because I don't do the dishes until Saturday. And it's like, if you would just keep going. And like we talked about doing your best, and that's not your best. Procrastination is not your best. So if you just do a little bit at a time, it'll change your life.
Yeah, we think about like if we could do a little bit at a time each day, just do something. We talked about this last week. Like if you do something each day to fulfill your goal,
Right.
like what would it look like at the end of the week? Like if you did something every single day to work towards your goal, what would it look like at the end of the week?
But I was telling you, like, it's really stupid when you say it out loud because you would rather sit there and stress about what you have to do than do what you have to do.
Oh, we all do it. I do it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally do it for laundry. I'm the worst.
But why do you want to feel that anxiety when you could just get up and go do it?
Mm-hmm.
It's just putting it off.
Yeah.
And it's the enemy. I swear it has to be.
Oh, it is.
You like, no, you don't have to do that. You deserve to watch that show. You can do it tomorrow. You can do this. You can do that.
Yeah. It's laziness then that can creep in, and having rest days is not the same thing as being lazy. And I think that's important. Just because you have a rest day doesn't mean that you don't spend time with the Lord, or you don't, you can enjoy what you've accomplished for the rest of the week, but that doesn't mean like Monday morning you still are on your rest. You enjoy what you have done throughout the week, but you keep adding to it. And that's so important because then you'll always have something to be proud of at the end of the week.
Or for my case, like we eat food, put the dishes in the sink. Putting the dishes in the sink is not going to make the Sabbath not holy. Like that's not what they mean by don't work.
Yeah.
Just clean up the mess, but I just leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then it stresses me out for days.
Yeah, because then it just keeps piling.
Yes. But if you would just fix it.
That's really good analogy with kind of like our life. Like we kind of, procrastination especially is, I'm so guilty of it at home and in school. And it just can be fixed if you just do a little.
And you sound so stupid when you say it out loud because it's like, what are you so stressed about? Cleaning my house? Well, go clean your house. No.
And it's laziness that creeps in too. Because then you're like at the end of the week, you're like, oh, it's so much. It's going to take me so long.
It piles up.
But if we would have just done a little bit throughout the week, it wouldn't be that big.
But I think that goes even into everything. Like if we never start doing the little things, we're just going to keep putting it off. And we're just going to be like, oh, well, I'll get close to God after I'm married. I'll get close to God once I have kids. Oh, once I have all of this going on, then I'll do this.
Yeah.
You're just putting it off and delaying.
Yeah.
It's going to be that much harder.
It's just like
the mess is going to be that much bigger. Think about all the other stuff that you're going to commit.
That's good.
Your life, it's just going to keep getting worse if you're not changing your behavior and living like Jesus, because living like Jesus is good. Yeah, it's righteous. So if you're not doing that, you're just going to keep making a bigger mess, and the sins are just going to keep piling up.
Yeah, you're going to keep digging yourself in a deeper hole. Like, that's so important. That's what we say all the time, like, start now. Like, there's no better time than now, because you're as far gone as you want to get, because you just keep throwing it. You just keep sweeping stuff under the rug, and then stuff just keeps piling up. But if you start right now, you're as broken as you ever have. Yeah. As you'll ever be, So I think it's just so important. It's really encouraging as well, because it's always an open opportunity. Like, you can always make it right with God. You just got to start.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to throw it off and kick it down the road, because you're going to feel worse. You're going to feel worse than you do now.
Yeah. Me and Caleb always say that to each other, like money wise right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, well, at least it's the worst it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
Like right now, because it's uphill from there. Yeah. I mean, we're in our 20s trying to make money.
Yeah.
It's going to go up from there. So if you think about it in the sense of like, we're getting one day at a time.
Yeah.
We're getting close.
One day at a time. That kind of goes back to just, that's very small. You can start small, and that's okay. But in the end, it's always going to be way bigger than you ever thought it was going to be. Yeah. And it's so important.
I like this. This goes along with it right now. It is, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight.
And I love that verse.
And so he's going to help us, and he wants you to do the best you can. And again, we're glorifying his kingdom when we do it.
Yeah.
You just have to trust in him and submit into him. And he'll make your path straight. Like, he's going to make your life better.
Yeah. We talked a lot about purpose in our last season, and, we'll probably always reiterate that because it's our everyday lives. Like, every day you're
Reason
doing
for everything
something.
you do.
Yes. It's a part of your everyday. It's so important. And God has a plan for everything we do, everything we say, every mistake we have. He's always got a better purpose, and it's always going to be used for his good. Because in the end, I hope this is kind of, uplifting and hopeful, because the enemy will never win. And I think that's sometimes we think that the enemy has like a attachment on our life. And in a way, he does, because we're in our sinful nature. But God will always win in the end. Like, it says that in Revelation. Like,
Right.
he will prevail, and that's what it is. That's just going to be it. And it is the truth. No matter what anyone tells you, we have the truth. We know the truth. It's right in our hands, and nobody else can tell you otherwise. They may believe something else, but it doesn't make it true.
And that reminded me of when the enemy tried to tempt Jesus, because I always thought back onto it, and I was like, well, why didn't Jesus just prove him wrong? You know what I mean? Like, why didn't he just be like, yeah, I can? But he didn't need to, because the enemy knew that was Jesus.
Yeah.
That's why when you say Jesus, you feel a certain thing. Like, the enemy knew that was Jesus, and that's why he was going and tempting him. But it is Matthew 4, and it says, then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The temperature came to him and said, if you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread. Jesus answered, it is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. If you are the Son of God, he said, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up high in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. And I feel like this is so important to note, that Satan is trying to use God's word against him. Like, he does that in our everyday life.
Yeah.
He will try and twist what God said into a different meaning.
Yeah. I think that also kind of just shows you how bold Satan is. Like, if he's willing to tempt our Savior, like Jesus, like, what makes you think that he can't tempt you and trick you? Because if he is bold enough to try and corrupt the most perfect human that had ever lived,
because how did he not know that God wasn't just going to come strike him down for that?
Yeah. Like, he knows he's going to lose in the end, so he's literally going to grasp at anything and everything he can. So don't think that you're above temptation, or just because, you slack off doesn't mean that you're going to fall into a pit, because he is always lurking and prowling, especially to those who are trying to change.
So the rest of it says, Jesus answered him, it is also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all of the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. All this I will give you, he said, if you will bow down and worship me. Jesus said to him, away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Then the devil left him, and angels came and attended him.
That's so good. But it also kind of shows you too, I think we've talked about this before, but like, when Jesus was tempted, like, Satan literally offered him everything of this world. And I think it's so important that he really emphasized this world, because this is not Jesus's home. This is not our home. This is not where we are supposed to be. We're supposed to be in heaven. And, we oftentimes take up on Satan's offer of the things of this world. And I know it's really hard to kind of admit to ourselves, but it's true. We literally will take anything and everything we can, and not because, sometimes we think it's for our good, but it's, actually Satan in disguise.
We want to be loved. We want to be liked. We want to have everything. We have envy. We have jealousy. We have temptations. We have lust. We have everything.
Yeah. And I think that's why we talk a lot about, do not conform to the things of this world, because this world is not our home and it's not beneficial. And I think a lot of the things in this world is very centered around Satan.
Well,
And
it's his world.
It's his
He's the
world.
prince of this world. So if you think about the majority of things of this world, it's not anything we need. Like, if you go back to the basics, the Lord's comparing us to the birds. He's like, you need food. You need me.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
But we get tempted and we're like, no, but I need that house and I need that car because they have that car. And we're so far down that we don't even enjoy seeing other people have nice things. We don't even enjoy seeing other people thriving, even though we might love that person.
Yeah.
It's like, why can't I have that? Why
Yeah.
does she get everything?
yeah.
It's so bad.
It's so hard. And we're not saying like you can't work for things and get nice things. That's not what we're saying at all. But like when things become an idol and Satan's like dangling over your head, that's when it's an issue. And if you're not giving thanks to God for it, that's when it becomes a problem.
Right.
It's not about wanting the thing. It's what you're doing to get it, how you're handling it when you get it, and are you praising God when you receive the thing that you want? Because the things of this world are just not what God has in mind for you. And I just really hope that we always keep that in the forefront of our mind, because things are nice here, yes. And God created this world and he created it for us to enjoy, but the devil has corrupted it. And so we really just have to guard our hearts and, see what's right in front of us, because we want God's best in everything we do.
That's really good because, God had intentions for this world to be perfect, but Satan came and tried to tempt us and it worked.
Yeah.
And so now we have to deal with consequences, and we just have to trust in the Lord that his glory is going to be shown through all of this.
Yeah. And we don't want to put you down by saying that, because sometimes I get very discouraged when we try to go do things. We try to enjoy things of this world, but they're corrupted. We were literally just talking about a movie, and we saw a video. I was so excited to go see this movie, and then we just saw a video saying that it was
How bad it was,
and how Christians shouldn't go see it. And yes, we do have to be kind of aware of what we see on the internet, because it was a video on the internet. But it's discouraging. But we do have to realize that it's all of God's plan. And if we take rest in the Lord like we should, we'll see the good in everything. Because even though that the devil has corrupted a lot of this world and has sprinkled bad things into everything, God still created it, and he created it with a purpose, and he created it for a plan. And things are still beautiful.
It's also important to remember that every person was created in the image of God. So there's still something good about every person.
Yeah, that is encouraging. And I've never really thought about it like that. But we were created by God, every single one of us. And that is so hopeful and insightful to think of, because that can also change the way you treat people and how.
Right. They might just be down the wrong path right now, or they might even be Christian and they're just having a bad day. You just never know what's going on with people. And so it goes kind of to just, we need to be a light and set our boundaries without condemning people. And so I feel like that's a really hard line.
Yeah, it is. It's
right
really
now.
It is really, really hard, because we just don't know what to do. But I think that's why we have to take rest in Jesus. And that's why it's so important.
And the more you're in the Word, the more you're going to feel what's right. And the more you're going to know the answers to the questions that you have. So that's why we're trying to be proactive and stay in our reading, stay in praying, just be hyper aware.
Yeah. I wanted to read 2 verses before we kind of closed out. And one of them was kind of about anxiety. It's, "Search me, O God, know my heart, test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything that in me that offends you, and lead me along path of everlasting life." And that's Psalms 139, 23 through 24. And that just kind of tells us that, if we give our hearts to God, he can show us what things in life that are causing us anxiety, that are causing us to sin, and he can help us lead on a path of everlasting life. And I think that's so encouraging. And the second verse is Jeremiah 31:25, and it says, "For I have given rest to the weary and joy to the sorrowing." So it's just, it's God's promise. He's always going to fulfill it. And don't get discouraged just because you've slacked off, you've, been tempted, you've been distracted, you've been too busy, you've let your week get crazy, and then on a Saturday you got pile of laundry to do. We all do it, and it's hard. But that's why we're starting this series, and that's why we wanted to dive into this, just because we want to set you up for greatness. We want to set you up for God's will. And we're right along with y'all, and we feel it, and we can't wait to see
For the
what's
next part.
I know the next 21 days, they're going to be an adventure for sure.
It might be harder to cut things out than it is to add things in. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. But we always are here for each of you guys. If you ever need to reach out, fill in, talk to us. We want to hear from you all. We want to hear how you're doing. Always.
It helps us get different perspectives.
Yes,
where
absolutely.
everyone is in their life.
You got ideas? Shoot us a DM. Shoot us a message on YouTube. We always love to think. So,
we'd love to make it happen for you guys, because that's the main point of doing it, is to share and make disciples and
yeah, absolutely.
just bring people up.
Absolutely. We're in this with you guys, so don't feel like you're alone. Do you have any closing remarks or anything that you want to add?
No, just that I know that it definitely already kind of affected my anxiety, I think. Just like doing this so far. I feel like old me would be like crippling under this last week. But I haven't, I've literally caught myself being like, why do you feel at peace? Like, why do you not feel anxious? And so I feel like it's crazy that it's kind of already working that fast.
Yeah. Yeah. He has that effect. That's really good. I do feel the same way, just doing, my daily readings. I look forward to it. And like you said last week, once I start, it's almost like I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
And I think that's just really good and encouraging for you guys. And we just always want to do what's best. But, we're human.
Yes. Well, we love you guys. And remember that you're more precious than rubies.
Bye, y'all.